construct the temporary street cul-de-sac. Land for the temporary cul-de-sac shall come from within the development or outside of the development adjacent to that, but then easements would have to be acquired from an adjacent landowner. Secondly, temporary public street areas shall be constructed to meet the village specifications for a typical urban street cross-section profile, except for a few exceptions. Temporary cul-de-sac right-of-ways for the pavement areas could be reduced to 100 feet in diameter. Temporary cul-de-sac shall not have a cul-de-sac planting island in the center. Temporary cul-de-sacs shall not have curb and gutter installed along the cul-de-sac bulb, and temporary cul-de-sacs shall not have street trees planted along that cul-de-sac bulb. The third point is the temporary cul-de-sacs shall comply with the required public improvement paving schedule. In other words, when the rest of the subdivision is paved as part of the phase 2 improvements, that the cul-de-sac is paved at the same time. The difference is that the curb and gutter is not required on a temporary cul-de-sac. It will be up to the village administrator, however, that the timing is very close by which they're going to be starting their next phase. For example, Creekside Crossing, they moved from one phase consecutively to the next one, all within like 6 months to a year. And so in that case, those temporary cul-de-sacs were left as gravel because they're being finalized and moved into the sequencing of the project for the next stage in a very short time period. Number 4, temporary cul-de-sac street improvements shall be removed, and the required street improvements shall be installed by the adjacent off-site divider developer at the time of the future street extension. Number 5, temporary easement areas related to temporary cul-de-sacs shall be vacated by the village board when future off-site development completes the second phase of improvements. In other words, we don't see these cul-de-sacs vacated, the sides of the cul-de-sacs vacated, until such time as that road is extended. Completed, inspected, accepted, and dedicated. The 6th point is that the owner or developer shall be responsible for the village's cost to install street signs that indicate that the dead-ended street is temporary and that the street is intended to be extended in the future to serve additional vacant lands. We've had all sorts of problems putting up temporary type 3 barricades, with people parking vehicles at these dead ends, with people dumping things at the ends of these dead ends. So we do need to facilitate these turnarounds to use for public vehicles, emergency vehicles, yet let the public know that at some point they are intended to be extended and they are not going to be dead-ended forever. And that I'm not sure exactly what the wording of the sign will be, but it will get them to understand that there are plans in place for these roads to extend into the future, and it's part of the overall planning process in the village, so that there's no misunderstanding by residents who may move to that particular area.
I think it's a great idea, Gene, and I wish we had done it years ago. What comes to mind is 32nd Avenue in Prairie Trails West, the northern end. There's barricades there, but the barricades also have reflective tape on them. So any vehicle coming northbound on 32nd Avenue can see that there's barricades there and the street doesn't go any further. Putting the temporary cul-de-sac is a good idea, but no curbing, no plantings, nothing around it. Somebody not familiar with the area, maybe having a little bit more to drink what they should have, they just keep right on going and end up, who knows where that's going to take them. So at the same time, just for consideration, there's got to be some type of no outlet coming into the street and some type of hash mark sign at the end indicating this doesn't go any further. And that can be a relatively small but effective sign. Just something to think about.
I think as John Jr. looks at these streets, it would be no different than any other new street that is temporarily dead-ended, or it's not going forward any further, that he will sign it appropriately.
And also, I think we discussed that there's a possibility that when a developer comes forward and is asked or told to put this in, there may be a possibility that 2 end lots may not be able to exist until that road does go through.
Well, and it's something that they do need to look at, that possibly the cul-de-sac bulb could curve to the left or to the right, but or he's going to have to make sure that those lots are much deeper so that they can still maintain some setback to that right of way of that temporary, in order for the similar sightline setback to be present all the way down the street. So those are all considerations that they'll have to look at when laying out their subdivision.
Motion, I'll make a motion to adopt OA 16.
Second. Motion by Steve, second by Clyde. Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carries. Moves us to item F, and as received planning commission recommendation, Consider ordinance number 08-17. This is to amend section 420-119, E, bracket 1, related to the setback separation distances for special license uses in the B2 district.
Mr. President, members of the board, on January 28, 2008, the Plan Commission adopted Resolution 08-03 to clarify the setback distances to zoning district boundaries in the B2 Community Business District. The proposed ordinance clarifies that the separation distance for any adult-oriented use allowed in the B2 district shall be a minimum of 300 feet from any land area zoned residential, and this includes street and railroad right-of-way areas, and a minimum of 300 feet from the nearest lot line of any lot on which any school, church, or daycare center for children is located or has vested rights to locate. What we did was we sat down with our village attorneys, we read through the ordinance, and it appeared that there might be a conflict within the language of the original ordinance. So we just wanted to make sure it was very clear exactly what the setback and the separation spacing distances meant in that district. And so the staff is recommending approval, as does the Plan Commission, for this clarification.
Adoption, 817.
Second.
Motion by Mike, second by Steve, further discussion on this item. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so carries. Next item is item G, to receive the Plan Commission recommendation and consider ordinance number 08-18, this is to amend sections 421, 76T and Y of the village zoning ordinance, and it's related to the area, height, and setbacks for primary and secondary monument signs.
Mr. President, on January 28, 2008, the Plan Commission adopted a resolution to have the village staff take a look at the size and setback requirements for primary and secondary monument signs. Currently, the area and height of primary and secondary monument signs vary depending on the property in which a sign relates, and how it abuts an arterial or non-arterial street. After our review and discussion, the village staff is recommending that these types of signs, the maximum size, height, and setback that is not dependent on only the street that it abuts. Primary sign amendment, maximum area is proposed to be 130 square feet per face, except if located in the B1 business district, then the maximum area would remain at 36 square feet per face. The maximum height is 10 feet, except if located in the B1 business district, and then the maximum height would remain at 4 feet. The secondary monument sign amendment to be 24 feet per face. Maximum height is proposed to be 4 feet, and the minimum setback is proposed to remain at 6 feet. The effect of the change on existing signs, most of our larger developments in the village, whether prime outlets or the Shops at Prairie Ridge or some of the other developments we have that are coming, we have taken very, very specific looks at those, and all of those developments are moving forward with planned unit developments, and so we're reevaluating all of the signage and the number of signs and the size of signs for all of those developments. So none of those developments are impacted by these modifications or changes, because we have worked out some flexibility with respect to the signs based on the uses on those properties. The situation is that if there are any signs that become non-conforming as a result of this requirement, they would be legal non-conforming signs. If for some reason they become obsolete or their sign is modified to the extent greater than what is allowed by the ordinance, then they become an illegal sign. We basically have just very few, because we have very little commercial development in the village of Pleasant Prairie at this time. So we just wanted to make sure that wherever we're going in the village, that we don't want to have, for example, where they've got a 4,000 square foot building, but a sign that's 160 feet, 16 feet high, that could be bigger in size, basically almost in feel, than the building that's actually even on the property. So we wanted to evaluate these as they move forward. And again, if there are any businesses that have multiple buildings on a single property, they would go through the PUD process as well. So we felt that this would not be a conflict or an issue. This doesn't affect most of the signs throughout the village. Even the signs in the corporate park don't even hit the maximum that was originally outlined in the zoning ordinance, so they meet within the guidelines of the ordinance as well.